Greetings, gentle readers, and it's time right now to add some more brand new acquisitions to the vast and ominous comic book vault. I'm Captain Logan. Tons of stuff came out this week. This was quite a big week for comics, and actually I think I have a lot less next week because I got so many books this week. This will, by the way, be the last time I post new comic reviews until we come back from the July hiatus in August. So it's actually kind of cool that we have so many to do this week, since I'm not going to be able to do comic reviews for about a month. Anyway, we'll go ahead and jump right into it right now. Like I said, we've got lots of new stuff. We've got some new number ones. We've got some new teams on some books, and then just my regular pulls. So let's jump right into it, starting out with Hit Girl number 1. This, of course, is Ramita and Millar, and I read something a few weeks ago where they were saying that they really didn't have time to do this book, but they wanted to anyway, so they found the time to do it. I think it was they'd been kicking this around, and they didn't want anybody else to do it, but they really wanted it to happen, so they said, fine, we'll just do it, and they're making it happen. I quite liked this. This was pretty good. I'm not a big Kick-Ass fan, and I have to be perfectly honest with you. I've not read, actually, the original Kick-Ass story. Don't lynch me. I've seen the film, of course, and I read the first couple issues of Kick-Ass 2 and just never finished it when I was working at a store, and so I didn't buy those. I was just reading them in the store, and I liked them. They were okay, but I've never been enough into this kind of stuff to go back and read the first book, which I guess I should do at some point. But I really liked the Hit Girl character from the movie a whole bunch, so I wanted to try this, and it didn't disappoint. Now, of course, like always with this series, there's a lot of language and a lot of violence, and I can get past that as long as there's plenty of other things to pull me through, and there was here. So Hit Girl is trying to train Kick-Ass as her sidekick. And what she asked for in return, and this was the thing that I really liked and that really pulled me through this, was what she asked in return is for Kick-Ass to help her learn how to be a regular kid, because now that Big Daddy is gone, she's living with her mother and her stepfather, both of whom she likes a whole lot, and she's having to go to school and do regular kid things, and she's bullied by the kids at school and stuff like that. And I really liked that they didn't go the direction with that I thought they would, by the way, because I figured it would be like you know, Kick-Ass. Hit Girl is so strong and self-sufficient and everything that you know, if she could get those kids behind closed doors, she'd just deck them out and that'd be it. That's not how they handled it. She legitimately wants to fit in. She wants to be a regular kid, even though she's still planning on also being a superhero, and she wants to figure out how to lead that double life. And so it was kind of a tender moment when she asks Kick-Ass here to help her figure out how to do that. I don't want to give away too much else about it. You've got that going on, and then you have the mob rebuilding from the events of the first Kick-Ass. This takes place between Kick-Ass 1 and Kick-Ass 2, the graphic novels. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. But it's a good start, and I think I'll probably keep going with it. I really liked it. Next up is Batman the Dark Knight number 10 by Greg Hurwitz and David Finch. David Finch no longer writing the book, now just drawing the book. And I've always liked his art quite a bit, and I loved his art in the first 2 issues of this book, but I dropped off because I felt like the stories were way too derivative of some other really recent Batman things, and I just didn't really care for it. But now he's got a writer, and he not only has a writer, but he has a writer I like a lot, Greg Hurwitz, who did the Penguin Pain and Prejudice miniseries, which I just loved. And so seeing him back on a book, and specifically on a Batman book, I had to try this out, and it didn't blow me away, but it's decent. You know, I said that David Finch was too derivative. I think that that Hurwitz is really kind of following the Snyder mold on this a little bit, where it feels kind of like a horror comic, like his kind of stuff does, and he's calling back to a lot of events that happened in Snyder's recent detective run, specifically with Gordon's son who went insane. And I'm just making an observation. I'm not saying that that's necessarily a problem, but just with this one issue, I don't know if it's going to be way too much retread, or if it's going to be taking those things and running with them and going further, since Snyder's not dealing with those things right now, and maybe it's a good idea that that's happening. I suppose we'll see. One thing I really liked about this is Bruce's relationship with his current girlfriend, Natalia. Now, I don't know her. I would assume that she's been around in this series, and that Hurwitz is taking off of things that Finch was doing before, but I don't know anything about her other than what I got from this, which is she's Russian and she's a concert pianist, and Bruce Wayne has this great moment with her toward the beginning, where he says that he wishes that he could be like her, and he wishes that he had other skills besides the practical ones that he has for Batman. He doesn't come out and say that, and I don't think she knows that he's Batman, of course, but that's clearly what he's implying, and he's envious of her for her piano playing ability and other things like that she can do. And I thought that was really neat insight into Bruce Wayne's into Bruce Wayne, where he's a person too. He's a thinking, feeling human being, and all he does is pretend to be a philanthropist and go out and knock heads as Batman, and he never has any fun. He never really experiences culture. And anyway, I really appreciated that. All in all, a pretty good issue. Again, I wasn't entirely blown away by it. A lot of it seemed to be just calling back to things that were going on in Snyder's run to set up some stuff. And it acts like there's a big reveal at the end, but if you pay attention to things happening in just the first 3 pages, you can figure out who the villain is for this story. So anyway, not bad. I will definitely check it out again and see what happens with it. Then we've got Ninja Turtles number 11, which is one of those issues where I go, wow, I can't wait for the next one. And don't have a lot to say about this one, because this, and I don't think I'm giving away too much by saying this, because you'll be able to tell just from the first few pages that this is where it's going, but it really is setting up the big climactic fight that we've been waiting for between Splinter and Shredder. And of course in this, they're reincarnated and they know each other from before, and so there's a lot more at stake going on for Splinter, because this is the man who killed his wife and who killed his children. His children, of course, being the Turtles now reincarnated, but still all that happened. And so there's some really great character stuff for Splinter, because Shredder keeps throwing goons at him. Well, ninjas, okay, ninja goons. But anyway, he keeps throwing his ninjas at him, and keeps putting him through these tests, and Splinter's just waiting to finally take on Shredder. And meanwhile, the Turtles are dealing with mutates that the Shredder has sent out. Or not the Shredder, actually, old Hob. They're dealing with these mutates that have been sent out on the street, and there's a character who I think was in the animated series from the 2000s, and Turtle fans who know more about this than I do, let me know if I'm wrong about this, but I think I remember this. There's this character Angel who's in here, this girl that Casey Jones knows, who works with the Red Dragon, or with the Purple Dragons, and she's all in the cartoon. He was trying to help her get away from the Purple Dragons, and we see her here, and I think it's the same character. And what happens is she and the Purple Dragons they find the Turtles in the street, and they start fighting them because there have been these other mutates they've seen, and they think that they're the same, and they don't trust them. So anyway, it's I don't want to call it a lackluster issue, but it's definitely a setup issue. And as I've said a lot before with this book, it always reads a lot better when you put it all together. So anyway, decent issue. Certainly not something you want to read on its own, but if you've been keeping up with Turtles, it's still going in the direction it was going, and it's still quite good. Next up is Batman Inc. number 2. Liking this series so far. Of course, it's still more Morrison. Trying to get to the end of, I would assume soon, because I don't know how long this series is going. But anyway, Morrison continuing more of what he's been doing with Batman Incorporated. There was kind of a There was kind of a big cliffhanger at the end of the first issue of this, and this kind of sidelines that and it does kind of a... It's not a filler issue. I mean, it's important, but it's kind of a standalone thing that fills in a lot of gaps in Talia's history. And I don't want to give too much away, because I think if you're a Batman fan, you should read this. It deals with all these different parts of Talia's life, going all the way back to when she was really little, and then leading up to how exactly she ended up having a son with Bruce Wayne, and all that kind of stuff. It's and there's some really interesting things dealing with the Lazarus pits. Like why Talia doesn't get to use them, and things like that. I really liked this. I'm not going to say much else about it. I didn't care a whole lot for the art this issue. Now, Chris Burnham's been working on Batman Incorporated for a long time, and he's, I don't want to say a long time, I think he's done quite a few of them, and I find his art kind of hit and miss. It works for certain things, like the really weird, bizarre stuff that Morrison writes. I think it works really well for, but sometimes I don't care for how he draws faces, and this is one of those instances. Ra's al Ghul looks really strange in this, and I had to do a double take a couple times to go, well, the only way I can tell that that's supposed to be Ra's al Ghul is because of what he's wearing, is it just doesn't look like him. He looks weird, and I think he's trying to make him look kind of deranged because of the Lazarus Pit, and so that's okay, but anyway, that's just a personal preference thing, but I just didn't love the art this issue. But other than that, it's quite good, and I think you should read it. Next up, I wanted to try out Mars Attacks. This is a new series from IDW. I was a little bit disappointed with this, I gotta say, because, and it wasn't bad, but the art is so good. This is drawn by John McCrae, who did the Hitman books for DC in the 90s, and I love the art in those. And so I had to try this out, and it looks awesome. The way he draws the Martians is so cool, and that's why I picked this up, because I always liked the idea of Mars Attacks. I always like how over the top and surreal it is. And I think my problem with this was that the story didn't seem to match the art. It wasn't out there enough. It wasn't surreal enough. It seemed a little too down to earth in a way. Basically, this is about the Martians' first contact with human beings, and and there's a Martian who lands, and then he gets kidnapped by some kind of hit guys who take him to a fair and sell him to the guy who's doing the sideshow at the fair for like $100, and then he tries to use the Martian, and then of course things happen after that, and I don't want to give everything away in case you want to read it, of course. But basically the main general guy for this, and I've not read any Mars Attacks before this, so I don't know if this is a character that has been used before in Mars Attacks. But the big major Martian general, this is kind of, not only is it first contact with the humans, but it's kind of his origin story as far as why he hates the humans and what the beginnings of what leads him to be a general, because here he's not. And one thing I did really like about this was that it was kind of from the perspective of the Martians, where they keep talking about it in like these really militaristic terms, and when you see the Martians, and I mean I know this is a totally different thing from the movie, but like the way I remember the Martians from the movie Mars Attacks is they seem to be really crazy, and they're wide eyes, and they're bloodshot and stuff, and you don't really imagine them just like having normal regular conversations and being really disciplined and militaristic, and they are here, but they're still drawn like that, so I think that's kind of fun. But anyway, I don't know, it wasn't fun so much as informative, I think is the way I'm going to have to put it, and I don't know if I'm gonna keep on this or not. I may try the next one just to see, but like I said, I was a lot more involved with the art than I was the story, and one thing I really like about what they did with this, and the reason I checked this out in the first place was just I thought the cover gimmick was really cool, and I know that's a weird thing for me to say because sometimes I complain about cover gimmicks, but this was really neat. What they did was they took all the original trading cards. There's like 50-something of them from I think 1962 is when those came out. And they took all those trading cards and they made variant covers. So they did like 50, however many cards there were, 54 I think variant covers, plus a couple of other variant covers. And then what they're doing is they're doing this in conjunction with Topps, who, the company that owns Mars Attacks, and what they're doing is Topps is reprinting those cards, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, that they're doing it on the same kind of card stock that the originals were printed on. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's kind of what it looked like. I could totally be wrong about that though. But anyway, it's so that's kind of a neat thing that they're doing, reprinting the cards. So anyway, I don't know. I'm not sure if I recommend that book or not. I wasn't real thrilled with it, but I don't regret picking it up. And next, Spider-Man #2. This I am quite disappointed with. So far, this book is doing nothing for me, and for those of you that are, if there's anybody out there that's reading this and just loving it, I'm sorry, but I don't. I can't get into it so far. I mean, it's moving too slow for me, and I know it's Bendis, but it's 5 issues, and they're trying to treat it like Again, I talked last time about this book about an editor letter talking about how they were waiting for the right story to finally do a crossover between the Ultimate Universe and the regular 616 universe, and I don't see that here so far. The first two issues have really been just, hey, we're two Spider-Men meeting each other, and that's really what it's been so far. There's not a whole lot of story. It really kind of treats itself like this is the first time we've ever seen a big crossover before. It's making too big of a deal out of the concept and not doing enough plotting, I think, and it's making, I don't know, I think it's making way too big of a deal out of of trying to play with the differences between the two characters, which I think it kind of should do to a point, but within the context of story, not just we find each other on a roof in the Ultimate Universe and we freak out because we're different Spider-Men, and then naturally, as you would expect, we have to have a fight because whenever there's a big superhero team-up, before the superheroes team up, inevitably they must have a giant confrontation first. And so, I don't know, it's predictable. I'm not real thrilled with it so far. They bring in Nick Fury, and he explains everything to 616 Peter Parker, and we get a little bit of a sense of what Mysterio is doing because he's the villain for this, and that's about it. I'm not gonna tell you anything else, but I'm not sure there's much else to tell. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too hard on this. I'm not through with it yet. I guess we'll see what happens with it. But anyway, that's Spider-Man. And then, before Watchmen, Night Owl #1. Like I've said before, I'm only reading 3 of these. I'm reading this and Minutemen, and I'm going to read, not Comedian, although the art in that looked really great. I don't know. I really kind of want to look at that. Anyway, but I'm definitely doing Rorschach. This so far, not too bad. It's kind of interesting how it unfolds a lot like... tonally, it feels like a mix between Bruce Wayne's backstory and Peter Parker's backstory. And I don't know if that makes any kind of sense whatsoever, but, like, as far as personality-wise, Dan Dreiberg feels a little bit like Peter Parker, but his backstory is, and what he has it seems a lot more like Batman. He's like a cross between the two characters because, of course, as you know, if you know anything about Watchmen, his father passed away and left him a whole lot of stuff, and left him a whole lot of money. The difference, of course, being that he didn't like his father and he was terrible and beat his mother and all that kind of stuff. So... Anyway, once again, just like I said with Minutemen, I feel like a lot of this is kind of retread, just telling us things that we know already and reminding us of things that happen in Watchmen, but not as much as with the first issue of Minutemen. I'm loving the art in this, of course, because it's Andy Kubert and it's beautiful, especially this bit when you first see the owl ship in action. It's pretty cool. But yeah, once again, I'm hoping this goes really cool places. This is mostly just set up. We do get the origin. Quite a bit actually happens in this, to be honest with you. I mean, we get, like I said, it is set up, but it's all of the Dan Dreiberg origin up to the point when he starts teaming with Rorschach. And I would assume that right after this we're gonna get like a mission with those two. But it's basically Hollis Mason training Dan Dreiberg to be the new Night Owl, and then he finds Rorschach. The only real complaint I have with this is that I don't like how JMS writes Rorschach, really, just because he has him say Herm way too often. And yeah, that's something he does, but like here it's used for comedy in kind of the wrong way. It just keeps happening, and I don't know. It was a little bit strange. The next thing is Amazing Spider-Man number 688. I've heard some people really loving this. It was okay. I liked it a little bit better. I mean, I like it in premise a little bit more than I did the last arc, which I just did a review with Dan on, and I didn't care for that at all. And now we've got a Lizard and Morbius thing, and I don't know, this is another one of those where I'm not real sure how to talk about it without giving away the ending, so I'm not going to say too terribly much. One thing I didn't like about this is that is that there's this fight with the Spider-Man and the Lizard that opens the comic, and then periodically throughout the comic we keep going back to that fight, and it's this non-linear storytelling, which seems to be there for really no good reason at all. I think this would have been better linear, but maybe that's just me. That could be a taste issue. I really don't like the way Peter Parker's face is drawn in this. He looks really jockish. It's kind of weird. I did a double take the first time I saw it, and I kept having to remind myself, oh yeah, that's supposed to be Peter Parker. He looks a little bit more like Flash Thompson in this to me. But despite all that, I don't know. It's interesting. It's Morbius figuring out a way to turn the Lizard human again, and then the repercussions of how he comes up with that idea and the terrible thing that he has to do, which I won't give away. But Morbius has to do kind of a terrible thing to make that happen, and Spider-Man's not okay with it. And then he tries it, and then we see what happens after that. I'm not reviewing this book very well, but again, I don't really want to give anything away. I guess I'll just talk a lot more about this as it unfolds. This could be great, or it could, just like the last arc, kind of fall flat. I suppose we'll see. Yeah, there's this thing with Peter Parker's ex-girlfriends in this that I'm really not caring for at all, where Mary Jane is meeting up with the last girl that he just stopped dating back in Spider Island, and they're doing some things together, and they're making kind of a big deal out of that. And I'm just ready for Peter Parker to start dating Mary Jane again. They're getting along now. I don't know why they're not dating, besides just the Marvel mandate that they're not supposed to, if that's even a mandate anymore. So that did nothing for me. I don't know. This could be great as it goes along, but I wasn't ultra impressed right away. But I guess part of that is coming off this last arc. I'm a little bit lackluster about Spider-Man anyway. And finally, the new issue of Star Trek Doctor Who. I reviewed the first issue last week because I finally got mine, so this is already out. And this was fun. This was great. The first issue was kind of just a Doctor story with some Star Trek starting out, and this is mostly a Next Generation story. And I gotta tell you, I complained a little bit about the art in the first issue, mostly just talking about how it seemed like it had to be rushed because of the timetable they had on this. And this one looks a lot better to me, and I'm not sure why that is, but one thing I'm really liking about this is the photorealism. There are all these panels where the TNG characters will especially Riker and Picard, where they'll give a facial expression, and I'll say, hey, that's just what they look like on television, and that's one of their kind of famed expressions or mannerisms. So I really enjoyed that, and the way that the crew finally finds the Doctor is kind of fun. We find out that that after last issue, it turns out that, well, we knew this already, but the crew finds out that they were actually in a holodeck. So they thought they were in the 19th century, but then the holodeck shuts down, and then they find out, oh wait, we're not in a holodeck at all. We're on the starship, and there's this mystery about how the Doctor is starting to remember things that never happened because he's in this alternate universe, and I don't think he's figured out yet that he's in an alternate universe. And then at the end they run into the boarding of the Cybermen, and that's not giving anything away because you knew that was going to happen. It's called Assimilation Squared. Guess who's on the cover? But anyway, yeah, I thought this was quite good. And I'm not gonna give away too much else besides that, but the art was really great this issue, and I was really enjoying it, and I can't wait for more banter with the Doctor. That's the thing I'm missing so far. But this is 8 issues, and we're only 2 issues in, so I'm sure that we'll start getting lots of fun stuff for the Doctor to do actually with the Star Trek characters. And that's about it for this week. Like I said, I will be back in a month with more brand new comic reviews, and I do want to also mention that I need to review Saga, the first 2 issues of that, because King sent us that in the mail, and I wanted to do that this week, but I felt like I just had way too many issues, and it was going to make this video too long. So if I can, I will do one more short video talking about those before I go. And King, don't hate me if I don't manage to get to that. I'll definitely do it when I get back. But I just didn't want to add it onto the 11 or 12 I had already for this week. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Really appreciate it. If there's anything you want to send me or Vince to review, you can always send it to our P.O. Box. Box. And that's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. Since I'm going out of town, of course, I don't have anything on eBay right now, and I won't for the next month. But when I get back, I will have more stuff on eBay in August. And just so you know, that's wearegeeksnotnerds.com. You can click on the comic book vault, and we will have some more things for you to look at very shortly when I get back. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. As always, I'm Captain Logan. Happy reading.